Hello everyone, this is Dimitris the Greek plumber, and today I'm going to teach you about thermal expansion tanks. Okay, so here in Hawaii we apply the UPC, the Uniform Plumbing Code of 2021, and of course part of the 2018. Now, why are thermal expansion tanks so important? I've seen a lot of people that don't use them, but why are they important? And here are 4 reasons why they're important. First of all, when you have a closed system in your plumbing system, what does the closed system mean? Well, imagine that you have in your plumbing system a check valve, a backflow preventer, a pressure reducing valve, or we call it a PRV, or any other devices that stop reverse flow. Now, some other devices are certain water meters that have a check valve. There are very few of them. I have not seen a lot of them, but these create a closed system. Now, a closed system is when we have them right after the water meter, and these devices prevent backflow, right? So water to go back to the county. Now, it happens when you turn off a fixture, right? Like, for example, a faucet or anything else. Now, this is when you actually have a closed system. When we have that system, we need a thermal expansion tank. But why? Here's the second reason. It's because we have high pressure buildup. Now, as we know, and according to the UPC, that's in UPC 608.2 and 608.3. Here, according to the UPC book, it says that water is in a compressible liquid. We cannot compress it. So when the water is in a closed container, such as a water heater, and it's heated from 40 degrees Fahrenheit to room temperature, and of course we know that the water is heated even higher than 40 degrees in the water heater, like 120, 130, 140. This is called thermal expansion. Like, imagine when you boil water for your pasta or rice. Now, when you put that lid on top of that pan, it's gonna start shaking, right? Because the air wants to go out. The water starts expanding. Of course, we do not boil water inside the water heater. It's not supposed to do that, otherwise it's a boiler. But what can we learn from that? When the water is heated up, it builds high water pressure in the system. What happens when we have high water pressure? Well, what happens is that our fixtures, such as our faucets or toilet fill valves, which are the ones that start first, they start failing. Then you're going to have a leaky toilet, a leaky shower valve, or a faucet, and you're saying, why is this happening? And then many plumbers just go and replace them, but you have not solved the root of the problem. The root of the problem is adjusting that pressure. Many times we replace the pressure reducing valve and that can solve it, but that's not going to solve it 100%. We need also a thermal expansion tank. Now, what is the third reason why we need a thermal expansion tank? Number 3 says the thermal expansion tank will absorb excess high water pressure within the tank. Okay, so the pressure builds up, a lot of pressure when we heat it up, and it can spike a lot of pounds per pressure. So I've heard about 45 pounds per pressure. I've been in systems where the pressure reducing valve is working, but the thermal expansion tank was not there. And we had an excess pressure. When I installed a new thermal expansion tank, that was all adjusted. Especially, these are necessary for solar water heaters. Here in Hawaii, we use solar water heaters. They all need 100% of the time a thermal expansion tank. The degrees up on the solar collectors are hundreds of degrees. I've seen 300 degrees up on the roof. It was crazy. So it's very, very important to use them. But what is the fourth and most important reason? According to our Uniform Plumbing Code, when they use the word shall, it means that we have to. What does that shall mean? It indicates a mandatory requirement. It does not say should, like it's a recommendation, but shall. So when we see shall, it means that it has to be installed. Okay, that's code. We're not handymen or people that don't have that proper licensing. Now, when we install it, like if you can take a look at it, that's a thermal expansion tank. Now here it has a bladder, and on top of it we have compressed air. So we fill it up with air. And here's the tip. Now when you install a thermal expansion tank, the air inside that tank needs to match the static water pressure of the system. Now, what is static water pressure? Now, static water pressure is the pressure that is existing without any flow. So when you don't turn on a faucet in the system or any other fixtures, That is your static water pressure, the pressure inside your system when there is no flow. Now, if your pressure is 62 pounds per square inch, also you have to add 62 pounds of pressure inside that tank. Nothing more or less. It needs to match it, right? Now, the last question. What types of thermal expansion tanks are out there? Now, here's one right here. There's 3 types usually, okay? We're talking about the sizes. First one is about 1 gallon, okay, approximately 1 gallon or less. That is, this is for this thermal expansion tanks are for tankless or point of use water heaters. We primarily see them in the tankless water heaters. I've never seen them being installed here in Hawaii, ever, but I've seen them on the mainland, and we always install them in Europe, always, no matter what. So we have to install it on the cold side of the water heater. These are very, very small. So you can find them on the internet. They're not super expensive because they're very small. Those tankless water heaters are supposed to have one as well. Now the other ones are, we have 2 more. So we have for traditional water heaters, okay? So the first one is the 2-gallon thermal expansion tank. We can install a 2-gallon thermal expansion tank for water heaters up to 50 gallons. We see that here. It's on the cold side of the water heater, not the hot side, but the cold side. Now, if you have a water heater that is a low boy, a 28-gallon, like 30, 40, or 50, yeah, we have to install a 2-gallon thermal expansion tank. And now, if you have a 65-gallon or above water heater, here we have 80-gallon heat pump water heaters, or 65-gallon heat pump water heaters, or 80 or 120 solar water heaters that we have here in Hawaii. Now then you need a 4.5-gallon thermal expansion tank. So it's usually based on the size of the water heater. So we have for tankless and traditional water heaters with tank, storage tank, right? So usually if you want to add it to your installation, I mean, with labor and the cost of products, they can rank between $250 to $500. If it's like for a tankless, it's not going to be that expensive, but you need to add the parts, you need to add the thermal expansion itself. That's not very expensive, but I mean, it still costs. And also the labor, okay? It requires more time and skill from our side. Now these ones are more expensive, obviously, especially the 4.5-gallon. I mean, we usually use brass valves, we use strapping, we use different types of materials, or just copper. It depends on what you do and what type of fittings. It can cost you between, I would say, roughly $500 to $750 or more. It really, again, depends on how it is installed. But usually with parts and labor, it can cost just as much. So imagine your water heater that you have that you want to install is a little bit over $2,000 or $2,300. On average, that's how much water heaters go now. Let's say you have an electric. Now that's going to add it's going to be added to the cost. And you may say, man, I don't want to spend the extra $500 on this. Well, yes, sure. But when you have high water pressure is going to damage other fixtures of your house. And remember, that is a code requirement. We're not saying, maybe you should do it or maybe you should not. No, it says that we are supposed to do it, okay? So guys, is it important to install thermal expansion tanks? Well, the answer is yes, okay? When you have a closed system, then you have high pressure buildup. The thermal expansion tank will absorb the excess pressure within the tank, and it's a code requirement. It should be, we will need an approved thermal expansion tank. So when you see in the code book shall, it means that we must do it, okay? It indicates a mandatory requirement. Now, if you want it or not, if the customer wants it or not, that is not our concern. The concern is us doing it the right way. Now, there's been times that I have installed a water heater without it. The customer doesn't want to spend the excess amount of money, but they want to do it a bit later. That's another option too. But remember that that's important to do it, okay? I know also some customers, when you have a business, you may want to sell as many water heaters as you can possible, right? Now, if you always add the thermal expansion tank, people are going to say, this business is very expensive. You charge too much. But remember, you have to show them the amount of work that you have to do. A thermal expansion tank for a lot of plumbers, yeah, it's easy for us, you can say, but it takes skill, knowledge. We have to apply the codes, right? So it's not just about the price. It's about the long term, okay? Long term, not just today, I'm gonna spend this. No, it's the right way to do it. And I'm not gonna say that your system is going to explode. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to scare anyone. But what I'm trying to say here is to apply code. Remember, it's UPC 608.2, 608.3, and take a look at it. And many times, remember, offer to your customers options, okay? Offer them 1, 2, 3 options, different options, and they can choose. But I strongly recommend, not me, it's not a recommendation, the code shall. We have to do them. So I hope you like this video, and please guys, don't forget, always apply the code. And when we do that, we're good tradesmen and we show good workmanship. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is Dimitris, the Greek plumber. Shoots!